I just wanted to talk a little bit about how to stretch. So, of course, there is what to stretch, like what parts of my body are tight and closed and therefore need attention, which is often fundamentally the posterior line of the body. People's hamstrings, the back line of the legs can often be shortened and tight, which pulls through the whole posterior line of the body and closes the lower back, for example. However, this video is not really about what we're stretching, but how we are stretching. So I often say to people, if they have busy lives, which many of us do, and then I do body work on them, I see their body and it's clear that they need to stretch some part of their body, to open some part of their body more, which is going to support them to be able to maintain the corrections that the body work offers. So I say to them, don't make it a stress. Don't make it too much of another thing to do in the day. Just stretch while you're watching the television. If you're sitting down and you're watching Netflix or something, wasting time, basically, at least get some value out of it. And while you're watching, have a stretch. At the very least, when you're watching television, practice good posture. So sit in a meditation position if you're that way inclined to practice meditation, or have a stretch. Open the body while you're doing it. Now, the reason I say this is because it's better than not doing anything at all. So better that you stretch while you're distracted watching television than you don't stretch at all because your life is too busy and you don't have another thing to do. However, one of the reasons that people don't have success in stretching is because they are unable to go inside the body. They are unable to go inside the body and to soften the body. Rather than that, they tend to be on the outside, like in the tendons, in a manner of speaking. Like it's very exterior. So people kind of stretch and they're like, it hurts. And their first kind of response is, it hurts, I can't do it. And they're kind of very much on the outside. When I say on the outside, like stuck in your head, like the story that it hurts or something like that, not softening in, releasing, and getting into the body. If we're kind of caught up in the story of how it's bound up or it hurts, then by that, the nature of that is a contraction. And when things are contracted, we can't penetrate, we can't get inside. The more things soften, the more things open, the more space there is, the more that we can go inside, the more that we can go inside. So we have to have an attitude of softening, in the language of Taiji, to song, to release and soften the muscles in order for your awareness to be able to saturate in to the body. So that attitude of ease and of softening is very fundamental to being able to get inside the body and to start to affect and open and stretch. If we have this attitude like, we're going to fight it, we're going to stretch, we're just attacking the tendons. And essentially what happens is you get an elastic band effect. And after you've stretched, it just goes back into contraction, sometimes making it worse rather than better. So instead of that, we take a gradual, gentle approach. We utilize the softening of the mind, the softening of your conscious awareness into the body to be able to soften the tissues of the body and to be able to start to stretch and open without getting this elastic band effect happening. So the other thing that we can utilize in that process is, of course, the breath. Okay, so the breath can anchor your awareness, can also support the opening of the tissues and give less fight against the kind of pulling that you get when you stretch. The other thing, I guess, also is that don't be afraid of a little bit of pain. The quality of stretching properly is a little bit like fire. It can feel like everything's on fire. You're not being burnt. Everything is okay. If you take a gradual, gentle approach, there shouldn't be any problem. Disclaimer here. I am not a medical practitioner, so practice at your own volition. Now, just a little example of how we might do this to stretch the posterior line of the legs, for example, is, well, I'll show you from the side. One common thing that you see when people stretch the posterior line of the legs is that they hunch over the back and they try to touch their feet. But really what's happening here is that I'm missing all of this big area of the lumbar spine and the thoracolumbar fascial sheath, which connects the lumbar spine down into the sacral area. And so, which is vital to find space and to stretch in order to have comfort through the lower back if we're tight there. So rather than going for the outcome, like the effect is I want to touch my feet, no, it's the journey to get to your feet. So rather than hunching over to get there, the first thing that we would do is start to lift up out of the hips. And we want to hinge forward from the hips a little bit. So it doesn't matter if you don't make much progress. And so when I hit that first line of tension, when I feel it wherever I feel it in the back of the legs or through the front side of the hips, wherever it is, I hit that barrier, and instead of moving around it or freaking out and not going any further, it hurts, we counter that and we hit that barrier. So you can practice with me now, go into the stretch, find that barrier line, and then soften and breathe. Take a big, deep breath, fill the whole space. See if you can get this idea that you know where it's, you can acknowledge and access where it's tight. If you can do that, then you can start to penetrate, saturate in with your awareness and the breath. So you breathe in, you soften, you find space, you fill the area where it feels tight and bound up. And then when you breathe out, you release and you let go. You breathe out and you let everything soften. And as you let everything soften, you increase the range of movement a little bit. Bend forward a little bit more. And then you hit a new barrier. You breathe in, you fill up, you find space. And then exhale and you go a little bit further into the stretch. And you do it again, you find a new barrier. Breathe in, soften, access new space. Breathe out, feng song, release, let go. And you just keep going until you kind of hit your final barrier, if you like, and then breathe there. You'll probably never hit your final barrier, really, if you kept going long enough. But we only have so long to give it. That's okay. The more that we can come to the stretching with an attitude of softness, and we can utilize this idea of softening our awareness into the body in order to soften the tissues, and then utilizing the breath to hit that. We've hit that barrier. We breathe in, we find space, it softens everything, and then we breathe out. And as we breathe out, we release and let go, and we increase our way, the range of movement further into the stretch. In this way, you will make continual progress and not just continue to hit the same borderlines. So the way and the attitude that we bring to stretching really has a huge effect in what we get out of it. So better to stretch in front of the TV and not pay much attention than to not stretch at all, but better yet again to pay more attention. This also nourishes the chi, gives the mind a little bit of a rest from following the monkey mind, because it has a very clear task to do. The breath is very nourishing for the body and very calming for the mind. So enjoy your stretching and see you next time.